In 1177 BC, over 3,000 years ago, ancient Egyptians watched as a foreign invading force bore down on their great and ancient civilization. The foreign invaders had come by land and by sea, sailing and marching down the eastern Mediterranean, destroying the great kingdoms one by one until arriving at Egypt's borders. These invaders were not the disciplined ranks of a far-off kingdom warring to expand the reaches of their civilization. Rather, this was a marauding horde formed from the warriors of different tribes and nations, rampaging from kingdom to kingdom, leaving a trail of desolation and destruction in their wake. The horde has already laid waste to the Hittite, Mycenaean, and Cypriot kingdoms. The invaders are a human wave of destruction that is ending civilization in the ancient world. And now they are converging on the borders of the Egyptian empire. Will Pharaoh and his armies be able to stand where Egypt's rival civilizations have fallen? This invading force is a mystery. They left no tablets or writing about themselves, no historical record of their exploits. Besides a few Egyptian inscriptions, we know nothing about them save for their trail of destruction. This mysterious horde of warriors goes by the name the Sea Peoples. We don't know where the Sea Peoples came from. One possibility is they came from the lands of modern-day Italy, Greece, or Turkey. An Egyptian inscription records that their confederation was the Peliset, Jeker, Shekelesh, Danuna, and Weshesh, lands united. They laid their hands upon the lands as far as the circuit of the earth, their hearts confident and trusting. They advanced by land and by sea, relentlessly pushing down the eastern Mediterranean coast through Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, destroying kingdoms as they went. In a few decades, the empires of the Mediterranean were falling one by one at the hands of the Sea Peoples, wiping out Mediterranean Bronze Age civilization. This is a true cataclysmic event, the collapse of the Bronze Age world, a world of major military and economic powers. It is the world of Achilles and the Trojan horse, the Luxor temple in Egypt, and Moses and the Israelites in Exodus. Empires that had lasted centuries or millennia were utterly wiped out in a matter of decades. Mediterranean civilization in the Bronze Age stretched from Greece in the west to the Middle East, from Turkey in the north to Egypt in the south. This was an interconnected world. Complex and developed trade systems sold copper and tin, the metals used to create bronze weapons and ornamentation. Kings and emperors married off children to one another and sent diplomatic envoys to strengthen relations among kingdoms. The late Bronze Age Mediterranean world was a highly sophisticated interconnection of major civilizations. Empires that were able to record their history in written languages and send goods across the known world, and had thrived for centuries or even millennia. Yet, this mysterious horde of invaders was able to wipe out those civilizations in a matter of a few decades of rampage and pillaging. What exactly caused the Sea Peoples to set out in their destruction? We don't know. The late Bronze Age Mediterranean world had been ravaged by droughts, earthquakes, and famines. Food was scarce, and trade routes between empires were disrupted. Maybe the Sea Peoples left their land because of a lack of resources. Perhaps they saw an opportunity to exploit the struggling empires. Whatever the reason, the Sea Peoples were the final blow to the struggling late Bronze Age Mediterranean world. After destroying civilizations in modern-day Turkey, Syria, and Israel while working their way south, the Sea Peoples were now converging on Egypt. However, unlike the other victims of the invaders, Egyptian scouts had tracked the movements of the Sea Peoples, providing Pharaoh time to plan his defenses. The Egyptian pharaoh at the time was Ramses III, a great military leader. With advanced knowledge of the Sea People's invasion, He had time to set a trap the sea peoples walked right into. We have a record of the battle. Ramses' scribes etched a hieroglyphic message into stone at his temple in Medinet Habu, recounting his victory. I went forth, directing these marvelous things. I equipped my frontier in Zahai, prepared before them. The chiefs, the captains of the infantry, the nobles, I caused to equip the river mouths like a strong wall, with warships, galleys, and barges. They were manned completely from bow to stern with valiant warriors bearing their arms, soldiers of all the choicest of Egypt, being like lions roaring upon the mountaintops. The charioteers were warriors, all good officers, ready of hand. Their horses were quivering in their every limb, ready to crush the countries under their feet. I was the valiant Montu, stationed before them that they might behold the hand-to-hand fighting of my arms. I, King Ramses III, was made a far-striding hero, conscious of his might, valiant to lead his army in the day of battle. Those who reached my frontier, their seed is not. Their heart and soul are finished forever and ever. This is Ramses' triumphant war cry to last through time immemorial, a warning to other nations that might wish to threaten mighty Egypt. Ramses also had his scribes carve a depiction of the battle with the sea peoples. It is a chaotic mass of carnage, the frenzy and tumult of ancient battle at sea. The Egyptians in rectangular shields with bow and arrow are shooting from a distance, well outside the range of the sea people's spears. The sea peoples, with circular shields and headdresses arrayed with horns and feathers, are overwhelmed by the onslaught. The Egyptians are capsizing the sea people's boats, and bodies riddled with arrows are floating lifelessly in the waters of the Nile. It was a complete and total victory. Those who didn't drown were rounded up and killed on the shores of the Nile. Pharaoh Ramses III carved his great victory into the walls of his mortuary temple for all the ages to look on with awe. Egypt was victorious, but at what cost? Ramses' warriors were the only empire to resist the invasion of the sea peoples. Egypt was without trade partners, as all the other empires had been wiped out by the sea peoples. Egypt might have survived the onslaught, but for the next several centuries, it was an empire vastly diminished in power and influence, an ailing empire amongst the ruins of the now destroyed Eastern Mediterranean civilization. Natural disasters and the ravages of the sea peoples had wiped the slate clean. In the vacuum caused by the fall of the Bronze Age civilization, the world entered a new stage, the Iron Age, opening the door for new civilizations to emerge. The stage was set for the rise of Athens and the beginning of Western civilization. But before we close, one more story to highlight how amazing history is. Around 1020 BC, 150 years after Egypt's battle with the sea peoples, the army of the Israelites and the army of the Philistines meet in the Valley of Elah, a green and fertile valley southwest of Jerusalem, about 20 miles inland from the Mediterranean Sea. The armies have assembled for battle. On one ridge stands the Israelites, led by King Saul. Across the valley, on the opposite ridge, stands the Philistines, the empty battlefield between them. As the armies shout their war cries across the valley, a man steps forward from the Philistine ranks. He is an enormous man, a literal giant whose shield, spear, and bronze scale armor weigh 200 pounds. He walks into the valley towards the Israelite ranks and shouts a challenge. Who is man enough to face him one-on-one combat? A fight between two champions to decide the outcome of the battle. No one in the Israelite army meets the challenge. They are terrified of this mountain of a man. Who could possibly defeat him? For 40 days, the Philistine giant repeats his challenge. And for 40 days, the Israelite army is without a champion to rise to the occasion. It is an embarrassment that neither King Saul, a mighty warrior, his son Jonathan, an accomplished soldier, nor any man in the Israelite army can summon the courage to answer the challenge. But then, at the end of the 40 days, a shepherd boy comes in from his father's flock to deliver food to his older brothers serving in King Saul's army. The young man hears the giant's challenge and the taunts from the Philistine army, and he is enraged with righteous anger. Who are these pagans to challenge the army of the living God? In his time as a shepherd, he has killed a lion and a bear protecting the flock. This giant would die just the same. The young shepherd steps forward and answers the giant's challenge, as we read in 1 Samuel 17. You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. The giant roars his approval. Preparations are made. The shepherd refuses to wear King Saul's armor, preferring to go to battle with just his shepherd's sling. When the battle begins, the giant advances his position. The young shepherd sprints towards the giant, sling in hand. He reaches into his bag, pulls out a smooth stone, whips his sling, and sinks the stone into the giant's forehead. The young man walks up to the giant, lying face down in the dirt. He draws the giant's sword and cuts off his head. David has slain Goliath. You know this story. So what does it have to do with the Sea Peoples? Do you recall the Egyptian list of tribes and nations that comprised the Sea Peoples? One group was the Peliset. After Ramses III defeated the Sea Peoples, the Peliset found refuge and colonized the coast of Canaan, modern-day Israel. Well, the Peliset are the biblical Philistines. 150 years after the battle between Egypt and the Sea Peoples, Goliath and the Philistine army, the descendants of the Peliset who fought against Egypt, meet the Israelite army in the Valley of Elah. This is where David begins his rise from young shepherd to the greatest king in Israel's history by defeating Goliath, the giant descendant of the Sea Peoples.